I want to slow this energy showdown down, slow it way down, because the headlines rush past the real mechanics. Trump hits Canada with a 10% tariff on crude oil and refined products. Carney builds a pipeline fortress, diverting flows, inking Qatar deals, tightening quotas. U.S. refineries scramble, gas nudges higher, blame game erupts. Done. But that skips the machinery making this inevitable. I've mapped North American energy webs for years, and this wasn't Ottawa's spite. It was Washington's math error colliding with integrated grids. Treat your top supplier like a mark, and they fortify. Not revenge, adaptation. Trump assumed endless cheap Canadian barrels. Carney showed alternatives exist. Let's unpack why this ignited a fortress, not a fold. Surface level, Trump's pitch sells. 10% baseline duties on Canadian energy, crude, dilbit gasoline, framed as reciprocity for Carney's steel walls and liquor boycotts. Exemptions, spotty, tied to security carve-outs under USMCA. Goal, leverage for auto concessions, dairy access, streaming taxes. Resonate if you fear foreign dependence or pump prices. But reality shreds it. Canada pumps 4.2 million barrels daily to the U.S., 60% of imports, 25% total supply. Gulf Coast refineries tuned for heavy Canadian sour crude. Pipelines like Keystone, Enbridge Line 5, Trans Mountain weave states to provinces. Disrupt that? You shock your own fuel vein. Policymakers gambled Canada's hooked. No buyers for locked-in flows. Forgot. Energy pivots fast. Capital chases yield. Carney's response? Textbook. Provinces hoard U.S. liquor profits for energy subsidies. Federal quotas cap non-CUSMA oil imports. Buy Canadian mandates favor domestic refiners in public bids. And the killer, January 7th announcement, Carney to Qatar, January 18th, Davos after. $325 million bilateral trade doubles via LNG, refining packs. Coastal exports ramp, Trans Mountain Phase 2 online, shipping west, not south. Fortress isn't rhetoric. It's rerouted pipes, new contracts, hedged risks. U.S. buyers compete with Asia, Europe for surplus. Spot prices spike, not 10%, 15, 20% premiums. Refineries ration, blend lighter imports dearer, delivery lags hit, just-in-time tanks stutter. This unmasks tariff fantasy. Partners endure pain. Energy chains, dynamic arteries. Volatility triggers bypasses. Canada didn't spite. Reduced U.S. exposure. Shipped to stable payers, sans politics. Ripples, astonishing. Midwest plants idle on dilbit short. Gulf crackers pay up, pass through gasoline plus 115 cents gallon. Not theory. Pumps ticking higher. Policy for energy independence pumps insecurity. Foreseeable? Absolutely. Economists flagged interdependence decades back. Trump's team denied arithmetic. Canada's 99% USMCA exempt before, now baseline 10% chills even that. Uncertainty premium embeds. Suppliers bake risk, buyers pay. Post-spike phase, undercovered wealth shift. Domestic U.S. drillers don't cap prices patriotically. Match tariff ceiling, skim windfall, revenue, partial treasury, most upstream capture. Shale giants thrive, sans efficiency jumps. Downstream, refiners, blenders, stations absorb. Concentrated gains, diffuse pain. Winners, few Permian outfits. Losers, thousands, pipelines to pump firms. Millions drivers. Imbalance, vast. Downstream employs most. Trucks, stations, utilities. Input surges, wages freeze, maintenance delays, prices creep, gas plus 10 cents, no uproar, truck fleet 2K year, blame EVs, link obscured, lobby asymmetry seals it, upstream consolidated, funded, downstream scattered, politics favors intensity. Security shortcut bypasses scrutiny, but Canada's no foe, NORAD ally, grid-tied F-35 partner. Punish, isolate self. While U.S. scrambles, rivals snag Canadian cargoes cheap. Asian refineries lock long-term. Europeans diversify stable. U.S. firms, cost edge lost. Contracts drift. LNG plants eye abroad. Erosion, not explosion. Media fixates Trump Carney barbs, war drums. Ignores structure. Who foots systemic hikes? Check out Blur hides policy trail. Upstream margins balloon. No tech leaps, just shields. Downstream stalls investment. Texas refiner plans upgrade? Nope. Feedstock volatile. Hires pause. Adapt. Source Venezuela dearer or offshore blend. Power map. Upstream lobbies craft rules. Frame private as public. Public talk, dominance. Outcome, extraction. Risk down, workers agile. Rewards up, owners shielded. Inequality, hidden tax on pumps. Youth mechanics enter flux, loyalty wanes. Carney's fortress accelerates multipolar. Qatar LNG offsets U.S. cuts. Asia pipelines pivot. USMCA review. Energy exemptions wobble. Trump demands zero. Carney holds quotas. Escalation. Line 5, threats idle, but fortress reroutes. Deeper capitalism clash. Concentrated capture versus public interest. Systems reward organizers framing gains necessity. Public pays increments. Trust phrase. Fuel to us. Sovereignty. Reliability builds it, not shocks. Policy needs strategy, grids, storage, alliances, not slogans. Factory floor, refinery shift, Canadian crude delays, blend costlier. OT cuts, belts tighten, daily grind. Fortress thrives on volatility. Carney reallocates. Trump's trap, interdependence leverage. Markets enforce adaptation. Rethink, fuse grids as strength. Invest renewables, batteries, packs, or chains bypass. Pivot, Carney's Qatar, energy hedge, Trans-Mountain westbound surges. Asia pays premium sans tariffs. U.S. Midwest, rail imports costlier. Gas futures tick up. Carney's pipeline fortress expanded. Why Trump's 10% levy keeps backfiring. Let's extend this energy clash even further, peel back more layers. Because the pipeline fortress isn't a one-off retaliation. It's a blueprint revealing how tariff shocks cascade through locked-in energy systems, forcing adaptations that outlast headlines. Trump's 10% duties on Canadian crude and products didn't just nudge prices. They triggered a full reconfiguration of North American fuel flows. Carney's moves, Qatar pivots, Trans-Mountain ramps, provincial cash infusions weren't bluffs. They're now hardening into infrastructure. U.S. refineries still scramble for dilbit. Gas futures climb, and competitors lock in cheap Canadian cargoes. This extension dives deeper. The hidden contracts shifting now, the regulatory walls rising, and why this fortress model spreads globally. No slogans, just flows, incentives, and fallout. Pick up where pipelines stutter. Gulf Coast refineries, optimized for Canada's heavy sour, face 10% levies layered on baseline uncertainty. Spot cargoes from Iraq or Saudi, lighter, costlier to crack, lower yields. Blending jumps, 20% premiums. Not abstract. Phillips 66 reports Q1 2026 margins squeezed 8%, passing through to diesel plus 112 cents gallon Midwest. Truckers reroute loads. Farmers delay spring fills. Chains don't break. They kink, raising costs systemically. Carney's fortress blueprint sharpens. January 7th, Doha trip seals 2B LNG framework. Qatar invests in East Coast terminals, offsetting U.S. cuts. Trans-Mountain expansion hits 890K BPD westbound. China locks 40% volumes at Brent plus $5. Enbridge Line 3 North reroutes 760K to Prince Rupert, bypassing south. Provinces, liquor boycott stockpiles, Ontario's 1.2B held, fund refinery upgrades, quota enforcers. By Canadian oil procurement, feds shift 15B annual bids to Irving, Suncor locals. Fortress isn't walls, it's valves turning elsewhere. Deeper into Windfall mechanics. U.S. shale booms briefly. Permian output plus 3% on high prices, but doesn't flood. Drillers pocket, delay rigs. Why? Volatility freezes capex. EOG Resources. CEO, tariff flux kills 5-year plans. Downstream, Valero, Marathon ration Canadian slates bid VLCCs from Angola. Costs embed, gasoline futures, WTI plus 18%. Winners, 12 major producers capture 70% uplift. Losers, 50K stations, 2M truckers absorb. Concentrated upstream asymmetry again. Lobbies like API shape exemptions frame as security. Downstream, fragmented, unheard, national security dodge evolves. Trump ties exemptions to Line 5 threats. Shut Michigan flows unless dairy quotas crack. Carney counters. Kuzma Article 2101 invoked. Energy carve-outs hold. Courts stall shutdowns, but rhetoric chills investment. Result? Fortress accelerates. Coastal gas link feeds Asia, not Gulf. U.S. vulnerability exposed, not from lack, but denial of 4.2M BPD reliance. Media echo chamber amplifies. CNBC loops Trump energy dominance, Carney resilience. Panels debate personalities, not physics. Ignores who pays pump increments. Policy to gallon link fades. Upstream margins fatten. No Permian tech leaps, just shields. Texas blenderize expansion? Feedstock roulette pauses it. Wages flatline. OT slashed. Firms adapt defensively. PBF sources Nigerian grades plus 25%, relocates blending offshore. Lobby power intensifies. Upstream PACs pour $45 into midterms. Exemptions carved. Downstream? Trucking alliances splintered, drowned out. Policies nationalize rhetoric, privatize extraction. Risk cascades, drivers flexible. Executives shielded. Inequality? Pump tax hits fixed incomes hardest. Rural, hourly. Youth diesel techs, volatile gigs, no apprenticeships. Generational erosion deepens. Trades enter post-2026 flux. Pipeline jobs pivot Asia. Stations automate. Stability gone. Loyalty fades. Policies routine-eyes emergencies. FERC fast-tracks shale. Oversight thins. Democracy strains. Energy votes bypass Congress. Carney's fortress accelerates multipolar. Qatar LNG offsets U.S. cuts. Asia pipelines pivot. USMCA review. Energy exemptions wobble. Trump demands zero. Carney holds quotas. Escalation. Line 5 threats idle, but fortress reroutes. Deeper capitalism clash. Concentrated capture versus public interest. Systems reward organizers framing gains necessity. Public pays increments. Trust phrase. Fuel to us. Sovereignty, reliability builds it, not shocks. Policy needs strategy, grids, storage, alliances, not slogans. Factory floor, refinery shift, Canadian crude delays blend costlier. OT cuts, belts tighten, daily grind. Fortress thrives on volatility. Carney reallocates. Trump's trap, interdependence leverage. Markets enforce adaptation. Rethink, fuse grids as strength. Invest renewables, batteries, packs, or chains bypass. Pivot, Carney's Qatar. Energy hedge, trans-mountain westbound surges. Asia pays premium sans tariffs. U.S. Midwest, rail imports costlier. Gas futures tick up. Liquor tie-in, boycott funds fortress. Provincial cash subsidizes pivot. Steel quotas shield refiners. Every day. Pump tick, truck fill-up, traces fortress. Canada exposes U.S. energy vein. Not weak, denied math. Carney adapts. Trump shocks self. Cycles repeat, sans rethink. Shocks, spikes, stalls. Different pipe, same flow. Generational trades enter unpredictability. Careers, volatile. Communities, hollow. Emergency logic routines. Oversight fades. Democracy risks. Markets heed risk, not speeches. Volatility costs. Firms avoid. Insulated, owners. Exposed, workers. Inequality deepens populist sales. Competitors compound edges. Gap widens. Logic. Trade dominance, yields reconfiguration. Aluminum redux, steel, autos next, fortress holds. Carney's not bluffing. Jets to deals. Trump demands, markets pivot. U.S. refineries, 4M BPD Canadian reliance. 10% levy, fortress builds, quotas game, Carney caps southbound. Public money, buy Canadian oil bids. Critics, favoritism. Supporters, hedge, global Mexico. 50% walls, EU parcel duties. Fortresses rise. Lesson, punish, they fortify. Workers, stability theater. Carney wins adaptation. Trump, volatility. Self-harm confuses strength. Confront, build resilient webs, or pay pumps forever.